It is 4 a.m. I'm on my way to the airport. On my way to Oregon, Bend, Oregon, to face my son's murderer and look him in his eyes and tell him how much of a coward he is for killing my son.
What's clear to me is that if my son was white, he would be alive today.
The mother of Barry Washington Jr. speaks out at the sentencing of the man convicted of killing her son. Good evening, I'm Lee Anderson.
And I'm Kathy Marshall. A judge sentenced Ian Cranston this afternoon to 10 years in prison. It's the maximum allowed for a manslaughter conviction.
A jury found him guilty of the September 2021 shooting earlier this month. Noah Chast was at the courthouse today and has the report.
He was sentenced to what's in an overlapping sentence of about 10 years. Some of the individual sentences were maybe 90 months or 120 months, but overall it is 10 years of sentencing. And the prosecution, they reiterated the fact that there was never really a question if Ian Cranston shot and killed Barry Washington Jr. It was whether it was in self-defense, and stating that it clearly was not. Ian Cranston did have a chance to speak or to make a statement. He declined.
Mr. Cranston, is there anything you'd like to say?
And now some of the Robertson family, some of Barry Washington's family, including his mother, LaWanda Robertson, did speak, and they emphasized a few things. One, the person who Barry was. He loved to play sports, he liked playing 2K and making music. They also emphasized when they found out that he was shot and when they found out he died, and the impact it's had on them. LaWanda described things as saying that since this has happened, she's aged. She's been suffering from short-term memory loss, and she's been having nightmares, hearing gunshots, and thinking of her son.
I am fragile and broken and have felt sadness and despair beyond what words can explain. My child was taken from this earth. Not from an illness or sickness or an unfortunate accident, but by the hands of a man. There is no pain as intense as what is in my broken heart. I know you have no discretion in what Cranston's sentence will be, because under Oregon law, people convicted of manslaughter in the first degree will be sentenced to 10 years in prison. But God will deal with Ian Cranston the way he sees fit. And while I hope whatever time you get Ian Cranston, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, I hope you feel all the pain that me and my family have felt.
You couldn't realize now, after looking at a year, how many lives you shattered. First and foremost, Mr. Washington's and his family, your family, yourself, everybody here lost, some much more than others.
The defense did not take issue with the sentencing, saying that the parties are largely in agreement with the proper sentence. The Robertson family and Barry Washington Jr.'s family seems to disagree.
Initially, when the verdict was read, I was excited, I was happy. And soon after, I found out that he would only be getting 10 years, and that's like a slap on your wrist. That's disappointing, because you murdered my son, so 10 years is just not enough time.
Barry's mother, LaWanda Robertson, explained how Ian Cranston could have the chance to live a full life after his prison sentence, and his mom could get the chance to see him again, while she can only see her son at the cemetery. And one of Barry Washington Jr.'s family members, his older cousin, Chanel Soler, said something that I feel summarizes the Robertson outlook on the sentence. She said, "The only justice I see is a life for life. You belong 6 feet under or behind bars for the rest of your life." Noah Chass, News Channel 21.
I hear it. There we go. This is my victim impact statement that I read today in court. Thank you, Your Honor, for this opportunity to give an impact statement. The last 435 days, to be exact, have been a living nightmare for my family and me. I always see and hear of these horrible things on television or on social media, but this just became my reality. My son was involved in an altercation and had been shot. I got the call from his friend September 19, 2021 at about midnight. I began driving from the Bay Area in California to Bend, Oregon. An hour into the drive, a surgeon from St. Charles Hospital called and told me my son did not make it. He was dead. I pulled the car over and screamed and prayed at the top of my lungs. That was the beginning of my life being miserable, sad, depressed, and of me having no motivation to do anything. The murder of my son was recorded on a cell phone by Allie Butler, who, instead of turning it over to the police, released it to the media for the whole World Wide Web to see. I have received every horrible comment you can imagine under my social media posts when I speak of justice for my son. To see the racist, hateful comments about my son from people who never met him a day in their life is something I will never forget. Everyone can ignore, not mention, not acknowledge, and not bring into evidence the clear racism that's involved in this case. My son's social media posts were brought up time and time again before trial, but no one brought up Cranston's use of the N-word in his. The evidence presented at trial did not include Cranston eyeballing and pointing at my son inside the bar and making comments about him that I have been told were racial slurs. Does anyone think Cranston would have even noticed my son if he were not black? What's clear to me is that if my son was white, he would still be alive today. You don't have to be black to know that. It has been so torturous and hurtful to hear all of the lies and defamatory things said about my son. This big black gang-banging, drug-abusing woman beater. My son has never been in a gang and has never hit a woman. He has 3 tattoos, and they are not gang tattoos. They were memorials to honor his grandmother, aunt, and father. The defense tried to portray my son as a drug-fueled thug because of the ketamine in his blood during his autopsy. The ketamine in his blood during his autopsy was administered at the hospital as an anesthesia. The false narrative presented by the defense included concealment of the real reason Cranston left college after only 1 year, because he was arrested for selling substantial quantities of amphetamine, including 3 times to a police informant. What are the chances that Cranston would have been able to make those felony drug charges disappear if he were black? He would not have been in lawful
He would not have been in lawful possession of a gun on September 19, 2021, if he were a black man. My son came to Ben a month and a half prior to his murder with one of his childhood friends, Max, to work on Max's father's property and to learn a new trade. When he asked me to move to Ben for a few months, I was hesitant, but I thought of one of our previous conversations about me trying to let him be a grown-up and trying to not be so overprotective of him. So I told him I supported his decision, even though I was sad because we had never been that far away from each other before. He laughed and said he didn't think I would let him go, but he needed to get away for a little bit, check out some new scenery, and I agreed, and I told him I loved him. My son was my everything. He always had a way of cheering you up when you were down. He had this goofy laugh that I still hear in my head every day. He was so loving, caring, and he always was the life of the party. My son's death has really taken a toll on me. Most days I am miserable. I'm currently taking medication to help with anxiety and stress. I have aged. I have short-term memory issues, and I can't focus on things. I have vivid nightmares of people getting shot, or I can just hear a big gunshot that will wake me up out of my sleep. I am fragile and broken and have felt sadness and despair beyond what words can explain. My child was taken from this earth, not from an illness, sickness, or unfortunate accident, but by the hands of a man. There is no pain as intense as what is in my broken heart. Your Honor, when I heard the verdict, I was initially happy knowing that this man will spend a lot of time in prison. I'm from California, so in my mind, all those convictions is about a good 25 years to life. Your Honor, when I heard the verdict, I was initially happy because I was like, this man's going to spend a lot of time in prison. But then I learned that he would only be doing 10 years in prison, which is a slap on the wrist for murdering my son. That is heartbreaking and disappointing. He will be able to get out of prison before he is 40. He will be allowed to get married, have kids, and live a normal life. His mom will be allowed to see him and hug him while I have to visit my son in the cemetery. I know you have no discretion in what Cranston's sentence will be because under Oregon law, people convicted of manslaughter in the first degree will be sentenced to 10 years in prison. But God will deal with Ian Cranston the way he sees fit. And while I hope whatever time you get Ian Cranston, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, I want you to feel all the pain that me and my family have had to feel. And then I read his obituary, a piece of his obituary. And Barry Christian Osiris Washington Jr. was born August 27, 1999, at Sutter Solano Hospital in Vallejo, California, to LaWanda Roberson and Barry Washington Sr. Barry attended Robert Semper Elementary, Benicia Middle School, and Benicia High School in Benicia.
Peace, Pops.